All right, welcome. So it is an honor to have you in this time together today. And so let's just each settle into our space where we are. Hopefully you've found your way into the place that is familiar, that feels like a place that you can just become still and lessen the impact of the distractions around you. And if you're in a place that's not your normal spot, then treat it as if it is, with the same idea of just getting comfortable, bringing your focus inward, and lessening the impact of the distractions around you. And as your eyes gently close, I just want to remind us all that our meditation practice is not so much about the physical place where we show up, but the way that we bring our focus inward. So that what ends up happening is we can actually take this practice, this way of being with us, anywhere that we go. But there is also something special about the familiar spot to allow you to feel grounded and safe and secure. So whatever that spot looks like for you today, just settle in and honor the fact that you've shown up. And begin to find a nice rhythmic pace of your breath that really does take into account how you feel right now. If you're a little bit sluggish, the breath needs to be a little more vibrant. If you've rushed and the alarm went off and here you've arrived, the breath needs to calm you. So you choose a rate, a type of breath that serves you. And as we've settled in here, we've been on this journey looking at these different energy centers throughout our physical selves. And we have one more to go, but I'm going to pause on that for today, and we'll get to that one the next time we're together. Because I sat this morning in my personal meditation time and I looked up right above me, and the sun was starting to come up almost, and the big moon was right above my head. And as I looked, I knew it wasn't the full moon anymore. That's already gone. And I realized that what happens after the full moon, and I already knew this, but I was reminded today, is that moonlight begins to wane. And I just felt really drawn to the idea of these waning phases of each of our lives. And so that's what we're going to sit with today. And so as you, again, get comfortable, I want you for a second just to picture the big, beautiful full moon. If you got to see the one last week, this one that we won't see again for many years, this incredible big full moon, we feel so empowered, almost joyful when we look up and we see this magnificent expression of light in the sky. But I wonder if we couldn't feel the same way with the moon that I saw this morning, the waning moon. The moon that has less light, that has a little more stuff in the way of it. Can we find just as much value in that one? And so as you are settling in, and I am doing the same, the first I would like to propose is that when we see the waning moon, and we realize from a logical and rational perspective that the moon hasn't changed shape, but it does something to our heart when the light gets a little bit less. But could we approach that with grace and compassion? You would never judge the moon for only displaying part of its light. You'd never get frustrated at it for not being full all the time. Can we do the same thing for ourselves? And some of us are going through very real, very present moment, waning type experiences right now. Some of us are just coming through one of these waning phases of life. Some of us have been walking this darkened path for a little while now. And whichever of those situations describes you the best, think upon yourself with the same grace and compassion that you would think of the moon. Again, not getting frustrated that the light has begun to dim just a little bit. Not getting upset that there's stuff in the way of your light being as bright as you know that it could be. So look upon yourself with grace and compassion. And while each of our struggles, each of our challenges may not only last 28 or 29 days like this cycle of the moon, we know that on the other end, there is light. There is new perspective. And there's probably going to be new learning as well. And so let's just pause here for just a second and continue to breathe. Slow, steady, rhythmic breath. As you think about this idea of the grace and compassion that you'll extend to yourself when that waning phase is your phase. And I want to validate the fact that we all go through things. We show up to meditation. We continue to try to learn about ourselves. We continue to seek this higher consciousness, this full awakening, this knowing of ourselves on a really intimate level. And then the time ends and our eyes open and we go back and realize that there's this or there's that we're going through. But it does not diminish what happened just minutes before when you settled in and you breathed and you closed your eyes and you found your way back to that sweet spot that your meditation practice offers. In fact, I would say the opposite is true. What we do in these moments will make those moments more manageable, less paralyzing, less fearful. And the more that we meditate, it does not make us more immune to suffering, to the waning parts of life. It just makes us better equipped to walk through them. And so again, let's go back to the breath. Check in. Slow, steady, rhythmic breath. And I proposed when we first began, could we look upon the waning moon phases with as much wonder and joy and attention as we do the full moon? I'm reminded of how John and I drove around and we were trying to find the best angle to really see the moon without the distractions of the world. Would we do the same when the moon is just a sliver? The same thing happens in our life. When things are good and easy and suffering is low, we run around with a smile on our face, capturing all the moments, remembering them, embracing them. And then when everything in life becomes like that sliver of the moon, I fear that often we turn away, we hide away, we forget. But what if we could approach these situations in the same way? And I don't say this or propose this lightly. I say this from a place of someone who is in a very waning phase of life right now, where there's fear and worry. There was frustration. It's becoming less. And I really had to catch myself this morning in my own personal meditation time of not being so hard on myself when there's fear and worry, but rather using those emotions as they come up as this gentle prick of my spirit to remind me to go back to what grounds me and makes me feel safe and secure, just like this spot we've each arrived in today. The more predictable our meditation practice becomes, the more often we engage in it throughout the day. When those moments of fear or frustration or even anger about the waning situations of life, the dark moments come, they will not debilitate you, but rather they will be a little prick of your spirit that brings you back to this moment right here. A moment of stability, of security, of safety. And again, these are not just words from a book or from an ancient sage who told us that it was so. I assure you, these are words that I am living by every single day. And I encourage you that you can do the same. So let's just pause, each of us in our own space, that comfortable, familiar space. Breathe, ground. If your mind starts to get distracted, picture the waning moon. This morning it was still somewhat full, but it was waning. Maybe you picture it as the tiny little sliver, almost no light left. But let that image bring you back to right here. And through it all, continue to breathe. Take a long, slow, deep breath in and let it go. One more long breath in and let it go. As we prepare to close our time together, I want to remind you, or maybe for some of you the first time tell you, Yoga Sutra 1.2, this incredible text that gave us our practice of yoga. It says, when you translate it, yoga, actually in Sanskrit, it says yoga, sita, vritti, nirodha. When you translate that, it means yoga calms the fluctuations, the agitations of our mind. And when it says yoga, in that statement by Patanjali, he's not referring to the things that we do on one foot on that rubber mat. He's referring to the practice right now. Yoga, sita, vritti, nirodha. Yoga calms the fluctuations, the agitations of our mind. And when we can take this practice from the here and the now, as we share it together, and let it go with us once we leave and our eyes open and life becomes busy, we will feel the impact of what it can do to those fluctuations, that little prick on our spirit to bring us right back to the here and the now. That is my wish for you. And that is I would say the guarantee that I am living with myself right now. Yoga calms the fluctuations and the agitations of our mind. It has, and it will continue to do so. Namaste.